Okay, so let's take a look quickly at this article, and there's some key points that you really should be thinking about when you're talking about the validity of an article, how well you trust it. So, when you're taking a look at this article, hopefully you've read it, and you see that uh, we look. What I always look for is what kind of statements are they saying about what's going on. And here you see early on that they talk about chemicals used for mosquito control could be, and see the word could be linked, even when they even just say could instead of have been, then you're wondering, you know, is it really a strong link or not? And so we're still, and even they even go on to say that even though this is happening, it's still a mystery. It remains a mystery, and they say we still have points where we've got a lot of leads, not conclusions, leads, not even data, just leads, and we're trying to follow, but no smoking gun. In other words, they don't really have a cause and effect. And who is this as saying this? The only thing that we really know about this person is that his name is Michael Lano, and he's from Ball State University. Is he a professor? Is he a doctor? Is he a specialist? Is he? We don't know anything. I mean, he could be a student for all we know. And we know this in Muncie, Indiana, that this Ball State's is in Muncie, and it says there are an enormous number of chemicals that are being applied to the environment, and we don't understand what the breakdown products are. So they don't even understand what the breakdown products are of these chemicals that are being released. They don't know much of anything so far. So the only thing I get from the article, as far as we don't know what's going on, we just know that this really bad thing is happening. We don't know why. Then he says that he suspects the chemical was uh, methoprene. So he mentions methoprene, right? And he says it produces a breakdown products, a substance in development, and its retinoic acid is the stuff that it breaks down into. And it says clearly, he says in labs, retinoic acid is produced in the laboratory. Majority limb deformities in nature, he says. A couple points. First, he said could be. Then he said it's a mystery, or the article said it could be, and then it said it's a mystery. And he said we don't understand. All right, we don't understand, and that's really some key phrases on what the breakdown products of all these chemicals that we're putting in the environment are. So if that's true, and you know that in a lab, this chemical that's used in to control mosquitoes breaks down into retinoic acid in a laboratory, what does that mean? It happens in nature, and that this retinoic acid creates these deformities in frogs in nature. But I don't think, I think it's this one out of these thousands of chemicals that are put out there. How do you know? He hasn't done a study as far as I can tell. And then you go on and look at concerned. It could be because frogs are relating to. They go on to tell you why you should be worried. Worry is basically the theme of that particular paragraph. And then it says limb deformities in frogs have been reported as far back as 1750. So it's not they didn't have pesticides back in 1750. And they also, moving on, they say things like he doubts it's a parasite that has caused the same deformities in other places. So he doubts it's parasites. But does he tell us why he doubts it? Or does the article, I should say, doubt? I mean, I don't want to make it sound like this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, but let's say it is. Let's say this person is an expert, and this person who wrote the article just kind of just gave you the highlights because they had to move on. They only had limited number of words for their paper. But if you're going to tell somebody that you doubt that it's something that you doubt it's something that causes these deformities in other states, this parasite, you should mention why. And maybe he did, and the writer just cut it out or what have you. But there's no why. There's no why this. Why not? So not only is there got just a very little evidence of anything. There's very little connection between anything. These are just suppositions. There's no data. They got, as far as I can tell, one experiment showing that retinoic acid causes these deformities, and I'm sure he has some epidemiological data or something that where he's looking at the distance and area which where these deformities are happening, and he's showing, and he's looking at in some places he says it's 50% of the population is a big deal. So I'm sure he said he's trying to ring the alarm bell, but at this stage we're only at the alarm stage. There's very little data, very little solid evidence. For instance, bees. Well, a lot of people felt that there was some kind of parasite killing the bees, and other groups of people thought it was pesticides. Now we're pretty clearly have a somewhat evidence that it's pesticides breaking down in the environment and causing a colony collapse. But even then, we're still kind of wondering. So let's take a look at what the questions are. What is the major claim of the article? That this pesticide, specifically this chemical, right? This chemical that breaks down into retinoic acid, and the chemical is called methoprene, which is a pesticide, killing insects out in the fields, is causing frog deformities. And we know, and you might say, so what? Frog deformities, who cares? Well, it's an issue because the frogs are part of the ecology, certainly, but another issue is frogs are usually the canary in the coal mine. If the frogs start to show deformities soon after, we might find that humans are going to start showing these deformities. We won't see it in the population for 20 years because we take longer to develop, and the changes might be much more subtle in the human population. We had that with BPA. I'm sure you've heard of BPA. BPA is a chemical in plastics that chemical companies used to put in to stabilize the plastic. Today, and it pretty much did something very similar to what happens with methoprene. It broke down into estrogen-like, I think it itself was an estrogen-like mimic. So it increased the estrogen levels in children, which then caused all kinds of issues down the line. So BPA is now banned from plastic products, especially with babies are concerned. You'll still find it in a lot of places. And the key is, though, that was research that started with frogs. So it is important to look at frogs as kind of a species that raises the flag of alarm. But really, this article had no real proof again. So what's the major claim is that the pesticide specifically methoprene, might be the thing that's possibly causing the deformities, right? All right, so next, what is the evidence the authors presents to support this? Very little. Most of the evidence is what? It's a source. Most of this evidence is coming from an expert. Theoretically, we really don't know, or from an authority. Now, is this the kind of thing that we do in science? We just focus on just the expert's opinion or the authority's opinion? Sure, we listen to the expert, we listen to the authority, but we want data, we want evidence, right? All right, so 2 is answered, 1 is answered. Is the evidence based on observations, and is the source of the evidence reputable and unbiased? No, it's a supposition. Nowhere in here did anybody measure the methoprene level in a population of frogs and show that these frogs had a higher rate of deformity than one that didn't have the methoprene in it in the same area. We have no evidence really, and no clear evidence to base, no observations to base this supposition on, other than the fact that methoprene does cause deformities and that these deformities exist in the area. I just don't see any solid evidence linking the two. Is the argument for the claim, now there might be, I want to emphasize again, there may be, so it may be there, and it may very well be methoprene, but there's no evidence in this article Is the argument for the claim, whether or not based on evidence, logical? And I would argue not. I would argue not at all. Because just because methoprene causes this in the lab, and you have larger frogs, and by the way, you also have another premise. So premise number one, methoprene it gets turned into, frog deformities because of retinoic acid. That's one. Two, there's a large population of frogs that increase deformities, right? And three, he doubts it's the parasite that causes the same deformities. How do these three lead you to conclude that methoprene causes the deformities? It's not logical. They don't follow. So I say no. If you have another opinion, I'd like you to support it. So would you accept or reject the claim? I would reject the claim that methoprene is the cause. However, I must say he never actually does it say that he's the cause. They did say, however, that it does remain a mystery, and that the real thing that they're saying is that he suspects that it's the cause. They suspect, and so really, if you're going to say that methoprene causes it, I disagree. I'm going to say I reject the claim. But if the claim is methoprene is a suspect, we're not sure what's going on, then I can go with accepting. So it all depends on how you define the clause. All right. So it all depends on how you define the claim. Right. What is the claim? I think clearly the claim is not that methoprene causes it, but it's a suspect. It's a suspect. Although I must say, I kind of am leaning towards rejecting it, because part of his claim is that the parasite is not causing it, and without evidence, I'm going to reject it. So if you include the parasite portion, I'm going to have to reject it because I don't see the evidence for it. I don't hear he hasn't made a case for it. So the next thing is, even if the claim were well supported by evidence, why and good authority, why would your acceptance? And by the way, we don't even know if this guy is a real good authority or not. We have no information about his credentials, other than he works at Ball State. I mean, he could be a custodian. He could be a math teacher. I have no idea. So what does he know about any of this other than what he's saying in the paper? So the next thing is, even if the claim were well supported by evidence and it comes from good authority, would you accept? Why would you accept it only tentatively or only temporarily? Tentatively means temporarily, and the answer is science. I'm going to say it. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. Science does not claim to know the truth. Everything's temporary in science, right? So in science, when we say this is our answer for right now, until we find more evidence that gives us gets us closer to the truth. But we're never reaching it. We're just getting closer and closer and closer. At some point, we get so close, it doesn't matter if we actually know the truth. It works for what we need it to work for, so it's good enough. So that's the answer to number 6, and that's, again, the science doesn't know the truth, but rather it gets close to the truth, and it just is awaiting more research, more data to make a better and to come up with a better conclusion and a better understanding of what's going on. All right, so that was a quick answer to this. 15 minutes. It's less than 15 minutes. Good luck. Have a good one.